G'day, legends. Welcome to the ISS News, the daily snapshot of content you actually need to see. I'm Anthony Meixner, and with me, as always, is Adrian Sutter. G'day, mate. How are you?
Morning, mate. I'm good. Mate, straight into today's headlines. We've got three stories again. The first one, how to boost your cognitive ability. Story 2, social isolation and loneliness could be a greater threat to public health than obesity. Definitely agree with that one. And then story 3, China bans under 18s from playing online games for more than an hour a day. Interesting topics, mate. First one.
Okay, so this is an article from Psychology Today, written by Christine Lewis Holborn. Now, she was an author of The Power of Slow, which is a book that talks about just finding space in between jobs and not getting caught up in that day. So this book is called A Minute to Think, Reclaim Creativity, Conquer Busyness, and Do Your Best Work. Now, what they're saying is that research suggests that throughout your workday, you need to find time to create white spaces. And this paves the way for some of your moments, like your Catholic moments, or you're in the shower. Oh, I just had a light bulb moment. Because what we're doing in this busy space of today is people are going from job to job, activity to activity, doing and not sitting and thinking about and pondering, events, things, or innovation and creativity. Now, she's actually a New York Times bestselling author, and this book has got some amazing reviews. They do have some misconceptions about white spaces. Now, it's not for rest and recuperation, although that is massively needed. White space are doorways to creativity and gaining objectivity. Misconception number 2 was that it has to be a specific length. It doesn't have to be. These little mini timeouts could be between 30 seconds and 5 minutes throughout the day, and they're most effective ways to calibrate the rhythm between doing and thinking. Misconception 3 was white space remains empty, and it's not a meditative practice. You can actually ponder and defragment your internal hard drive in order to for things to show up. Mate, do you agree with that, or are there some real-time applications to this white space that we're talking about?
White space, I'm not sure. But yeah, I believe there is. I mean, the idea of taking breaks, taking rests, I think is something that we in the West definitely don't put enough focus on. I know I've seen a bunch of memes lately. There was a story about the two wood choppers who had to wood chop for a day to see who could make the most, and one wood chopper just went hammer and tongs, chopping all for 24 hours. The other one chopped for 15, sat down for 15, chopped for 15, sat down for 15, and then at the end he chopped twice as much wood. And he's like, "What were you doing? You were resting every 15." He's like, "No, mate, I was sharpening my axe." And that the defrag bit is the bit that kind of resonates with me. I do it poorly at the moment. When you're busy, I just switch my brain on when I wake up, go hammer and tongs all day, and then I'm fried by the end of the day. And then slowly over time, I've learned to practice like 90-minute work blocks, like 90-minute on, 90-minute off, having rests, and it works better. It's not taking time to be lazy. It's just taking time to rest your brain. And I think it's needed, definitely, for me to defrag my brain hard drive.
Yeah, I think there's that we're in that hard spot between productivity, capitalism, bang for your buck, and now, I mean, Google started this with those sleep pods, and we talk about creating these workspaces where you can sort of look after yourself and get the most without having burnout. So it'd be an interesting place to see. I'll put the book reference in the link so you can go and have a read if you're interested.
Yeah, I like it. Righto, story number 2, segment number 2, social isolation. Loneliness could be a greater threat to public health than obesity. I couldn't agree more with this. Now, this is a little bit old, a little bit dated, but I think it's as relevant now as ever. It's a journal article that came out in 2017. I found this through Science Daily, but the original source is the American Psychological Association. And it says loneliness and social isolation represents a greater public health hazard than obesity, and their impact has been growing and will continue to grow according to research. Now, this was written pre-COVID, so how this is going to continue to grow, I think, is all fairly obvious, and I predict it's going to be amplified from what's happened over the last 18 months. But the study goes on to say that being connected to others socially is widely considered a fundamental human need, crucial to both well-being and survival. Absolutely agree. Extreme examples show infants in custodial care who lack human contact fail to thrive and often die. And indeed, social isolation or solitary confinement has been used as a form of punishment. I think that's something we've discussed in the past. Isolation and disconnection that you feel when you leave the military. I mean, that was, back in the day, a form of punishment or even torture. You're going in the hole. Now, the study continues. Approximately 42.6 million adults aged over 45 in the US, acknowledging this is a US study, are estimated to be suffering from chronic loneliness. More than half of the population is now unmarried. Since the previous census, marriage rates and the number of children per household have declined. I guess that's just a bit of correlating data. These trends suggest that Americans are becoming less socially connected and experiencing more loneliness. I think Australians are in the same boat, absolutely, at the moment through COVID. There is robust evidence that social isolation and loneliness significantly increase premature mortality. And the final quote is, with an increasingly aging population, the effect on public health is only anticipated to increase. Indeed, many nations around the world now suggest we are facing a loneliness epidemic. And the challenge, the question they throw at the end of the article is, the challenge now is to figure out what we do about it. So, mate, this is the bit that I'd like to have a discussion about. This was an article from 2017. Loneliness is killing people. I think we're all aware of that. And now the impact of COVID. Are you feeling it? What's your experience with social isolation like, I guess? And any hot tips, mate, on what we can do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think urbanization of humanity has probably pushed this one way. You know, you see these big cities with lots of people, but nobody feels connection. I thought that was probably the first step towards this isolation. And then we see, like, you know, social media and things like that. Now, I know social media is all we've got at the moment to stay connected. But I think all these things, we're overpopulated. We're talking about a population of 7 billion people. And now we're also looking at an epidemic of loneliness. So what is going on and how do we fix it? Well, I can tell you how Swiss Aid's fixing it. They're having a barbecue to remember, and they're literally, it's about forcing those people to get their mates together and have a barbecue and build that connection again. I think spot on, mate.
Yeah, mate, I couldn't agree more. I think this research was before COVID, and this started a couple of decades ago. I mean, the rise of the internet, young generations of kids losing social skills. They're not developing social skills. They're all connections are online. And I know this is going to flow well into your next story, but the invention of social networking meant that people were connecting digitally and not connecting physically or socially. And that's just had a flow-on effect over time. People are getting more and more disconnected. Causes anxiety, means that when you do eventually go out in public, like I used to get real bad social anxiety, and the more time I spent without being around other people, the worse it got. Next time I caught up with people, I'd just be an anxious mess out in public. I think that's fairly common across the veteran community, I think, with the world as a whole at the moment. And, mate, like you said, through COVID, it's not just subconsciously pulling yourself from a community, it is government enforcement. You will not socially connect with anyone. And I think going forward, the fact that we've been saying social distancing for so long, it's become a brainwashed, or it's like propaganda. It's been brainwashed into us so that for the next generation of people, social disconnection, social isolation or social distancing is going to be a problem. So like you said, everyone out there listening to this, what can you do about it? Connect with your mates. Easier said than done when you're in lockdown. But like Mex said, barbecuetoremember.com. You can go there right now. Swiss Aid's putting on a national mental health campaign. Register a barbie. Connect as many people as you can. Yes, we're connecting digitally for the end state of having a barbie together on Remembrance Day, 11 November. And leave it to us to worry about COVID lockdown rules. We're working with governments. We'll figure out how we can navigate the rules to keep it legal, keep it safe, but also connect as many Aussies as possible. And that is it.
Mate, great. So story number 3. This is an interesting one. And it's going to be quite thought-provoking. So China bans under 18s from playing online games for more than an hour a day. So online gaming companies will force users to register playing under their actual real names and their real identities. Under 18s will only be allowed to play between 8 p.m., 9 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and on public holidays. The new restrictions were announced by the Chinese social media platform Weibo, and that's the People's Daily. That's the communist paper, the official newspaper of the Chinese Communist Party. And they are quoted as saying, no industry, no sport can be allowed to develop in a way that destroys an entire generation. The newspaper wrote, comparing online video games to electronic drugs. So I guess to open it up to discussion and some of my points on this, I am conflicted. I think I like it. I think, honestly, it is a drug, and you see all the Instagram and social media videos getting around of like dad's throwing his kids' PlayStation, all these games under the lawnmower, and the kids breaking down, right? And you see things like this happen all the time. You hear about people dying and people in America getting sued, parents, because they literally let their kid die while they were playing World of Warcraft. So it is a problem. I guess opening up the discussion is, do we need to regulate this, and we've taken people's freedoms off them because people can't be trusted? And is this a dangerous road to go down, mate?
Mate, same as you. I can see both sides of the coin here. I'm always with everything. I mean, if I was going to pick a political party, which I don't, and obviously work with all of them, but Liberal Democrats in Australia or libertarian kind of parties in the US, that is what I'll be looking at. Small government. I love education. I hate enforcement and regulation's a little bit different, but to be told to educate parents on the effects, the negative and positive, or the negative effects in this case of gaming for your kids, that would be the path I would have taken. Enforcing it with legislating it and making it against the law for kids to play games, I don't think that's the place that's what governments were designed for. I don't, in Australia, I know if that came out and my kids weren't allowed to play video games because the government said they weren't allowed to, and I'm their parent and I want them to, I think, that is a slippery slope. And I know we're talking about China here, so they're already halfway down the slippery slope, but I don't like being told what to do by the government. I like being educated and as an adult making informed decisions. And I get for people under 18, they can't, but that's their parents' job. That's not the local politician's job to tell your kids what they're allowed to do. So I know it's a can of worms, mate. I'd love it if we had a fourth story and we were rolling into COVID kind of discussions, because that's all the same thing. I think when you get to a point, the difference here is when you get to a point where where the national kind of health is at risk. Yeah, maybe China's looking at it going, it is going to put an entire generation's health at risk. I get it, but it has to start with education before you start legally enforcing children and video games. I think it's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, and absolutely. This sort of applies when we talk about other addictive substances. So if you've ever done an alcohol survey in the army or anywhere, you do that survey. Has drinking prevented you from, out of 1 to 5? Have you ever not been able to do what's expected of you because of drinking? I suppose if you change that for gaming or, and you can sort of apply those sort of checks and balances to your own life if things are getting away, especially if you're working from home, and you're working off the same thing that you can be gaming off. Could be a slippery slope, mate. Yeah.
And I think what you just touched on there is a perfect point. The addictive behaviour, same as any addictive substance, the substance is very rarely, if ever, the cause of the problem. The substance is there to fill a void caused by a problem. Taking games off under 18-year-old kids, are they gaming more and more because they have no friends or they're socially isolated? Highly likely. I mean, there's plenty of research to show that is the case. They're finding connection through gaming. Taking it away cold turkey without the education, without finding out what was the cause of that kid needing to bury himself in video games 24/7, I think is dangerous. And we should be looking for the cause of these issues rather than just band-aiding kind of symptoms.
Absolutely. Education is key. And so, guys, that was the ISS news for today. This edition of the ISS News is proudly supporting Swiss 8. A couple of articles in this edition speak specifically to isolation and loneliness. If you're feeling isolated or lonely, or you just want to be part of something, go to swiss8.org and go to the nav and click Tribe. Fill out the web form and come and join our tribe. We'd love to have you and see you there.